Hey everyone, it's James Welcome, and this is the Welcome Legacy Podcast, Episode 7. From Prison to Property, Creative Deals, Tesla Dreams, and Clearing Land with Nick. Today we have another amazing episode. Quote of the day: you can't plant seeds of greatness and expect weeds of failure to grow. Cultivate your future. This is what we're talking about today. From surviving prison to thriving in real estate, Nick shares how he turned his life around using creative financing to purchase Dog Walker Ranch with no money down. A father, Tesla owner, and entrepreneur in land clearing, investing, and personal growth. Nick dropped gems on faith, finance, and family legacy. What's going on, my boy?
Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, bro. I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure to have you on this thing here with me today, bro.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. All right. Those who don't know Nick is the owner of Dog Walker Ranch, one of the biggest pet resorts in Ocala, Florida. And bro just started a little peanut stand on the side too.
Check us out, man. North 441 Ocala. We got different flavors every weekend.
Yes, sir. And they hitting too. So y'all pull up. Okay. So we're gonna break this down. The first segment is gonna be upbringing and transformation, right? So for those of you that just tuned in, we're dropping that episode every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. So if this content is giving y'all any value, please like, share, subscribe, and always drop comments because we love to hear what y'all think about the podcast. We love y'all feed. Okay, well, we're going to jump into these questions. Segment 1, upbringing and transformation. Question number 1. How did your upbringing shape the man you are today?
Man, that's tough because I wasn't raised anything like I am today. I guess my mother was the solid point in my life since I was little, man. She's always been a godly woman by the book. She worked 3 jobs, man, to keep a roof over our head, but she lost a daughter, which was my baby sister. And my mom kind of lost it a little bit after that. You know, she kind of gave up on life a little bit and was just kind of skating through. She ended up marrying this man that, you know, he wasn't the best father figure. You know, he's the one that pretty much taught me if you wanted nice things, you had to sell drugs. You know, while mama was working 2, 3 jobs trying to keep us afloat, you know, he was out working, you know, but really selling drugs and, you know, got these nice dualies, nice cars, jewelry, everything, you know, teaching us that that's how it was. So by the time, you know, my mom kind of gathered up to that, you know, he was beating the hell out of her, beating the hell out of us, and she kind of stepped away from it all. And then she did the single mother thing. And that was the hardest part that led me astray because my mother was working 2, 3 jobs. And it was my older brother pretty much raising me. And my older brother was hanging around the wrong crowd. So he wasn't no father figure. You know, he's 6 years older than me. But it took a big toll on me, you know, not having that father figure because I wanted to go play sports. I wanted to do all this stuff, but my mama wasn't able to take me because she's working until 7, 8 o'clock at night. You know, so my mama always tried to tell me, stay away from them bad kids, stay away from, you know, drugs, stay away from all that stuff. She tried to instill that in me, but she wasn't here to teach me that because she was too busy trying to keep a roof over our head. But I will say that the way she raised me in the household, that's still with me today with my kids, you know, but I am the father figure there. So I try to be the father that she was trying to be without actually being able to be there.
So got cut off a little bit, but go ahead and finish. Tell them where we left off at.
Yeah, I think I was talking about my brother, man, and him being older, just not being a good role model. You know, my mom tried to give me the advice on how to be a better man, but it didn't stick when I was younger because I had a bad role model who I was
looking up to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important having good people in your life at a young age because that's what shape, makes, and molds you into the person you're going to become.
Yeah, that's true. It's just like with me growing up. My dad, I knew who my dad was, and I already had like some traumatizing experiences with him. He was in and out of jail. It's basically like everybody that I was raised around in that neighborhood and Crack Hill. It was some people, it was like go to church, right? Because grandma had us going to church Wednesday, Bible study Thursday, doing scripts, all that stuff. But everybody that's going to church is still coming home doing the same thing. Everybody drinking, everybody, you know what I mean? They still singing, still doing everything. They do their dirt all week and go to church on Sunday.
And
We
think
sitting in
that
Bible
cleanse
study
of all the
Wednesday.
sins.
Yeah, yeah. So, that's all we ever seen. It wasn't like nobody doing nothing no different. It was everybody was selling drugs, dog. All my cousins, all my family members with my last name. Anytime the police see my last name, welcome. They classify my family as drug dealers because that's all that they ever got in trouble for was drugs. So growing up, it do takes because we take in good, we take in bad. Like grandma saying, going to church. This boy right here saying, "Hey man, let's go figure out a way to get some money." Right? Church ain't gonna give you no money, so you finna go to where you know what I mean, where that money at. Especially when you don't have the nice things that everybody else have. Cause my grandma used to buy clothes out the thrift store for us until I got my first pair of name brand shoes. They were some Sean Kemp's in fifth grade, and my auntie bought them for me. The first pair. So from kindergarten to fifth grade, that was my first pair that I got that was brand new. Other than that, everything was hand me down.
Yeah, I remember that, man. That and Payless, Everlast, and you know the
Yeah,
crazy part is like Champion. Champion used to be like the bottom tier when we was
yeah.
growing up. That
Mm-hmm.
was Payless stuff, and now this it's crazy. Now that's what kids are sporting nowadays.
Mm-hmm. But then you wouldn't think about that because my mama embarrassed the hell out of me. Seventh grade, we had went to Payless because that's where we used to go get shoes at. It
Yep.
was a pair of shoes. They was called Pro Wings, and we was picking shoes. She was like, "Well, you gonna pick one of these shoes? Cause we not finna stay in this store all day." So I was like, "I'll take these." And I didn't really wear them. And then she was like, "So you see me out here working? I'm out here working to do what best I can from you, and you ain't gonna even wear the stuff that I bought." So that kind of made like, man, I don't care what nobody say, man. My mama bought me these shoes, and I'm gonna wear these damn shoes. But
Yes, you work hard for it, man. But
yeah,
as kids, we don't understand that, you know. As kids, we don't understand money. And, you know, really, you don't figure that out until you have kids of your own and they don't understand how your wallet works. That's when we start understanding, like, wow, I really didn't understand that as a kid. But now, once you become a parent and them kids want all this stuff and they don't understand, baby, that costs money, you
they
know?
do.
And then that's when it starts clicking to us. Man, that's how I was as a kid too.
Yep. And then the only other thing is, then at that point in time, seventh grade or so, you're a little older now. You're like 12. So now you trying to figure out something to make some money. And in my case, I started selling weed so I can buy my own stuff. So, but
Yeah, that was me. That was me in the fifth grade. I started in the fifth grade. I learned about weed. And, you know, I wasn't smoking weed at that time. So it was all good because, you know, everybody I was around, I was always around older people growing up. I was always the young kid, you know. So all the older people that I was around, because my brother's 6 years older than me. So everybody I was around was his friends. So all them smoked weed. I didn't smoke weed. So I seen the money in it. Well, my mom was struggling to take and put bills on the house, you know, pay the bills in the house. And we had 8 kids living here. She had 8 kids that she had done took in off the streets, trying to, you know, keep us off the streets, trying to do better, you know.
yeah,
And, you know, really just, they just used her. You know, my brother and his friends just used my mom is what it was because she was gone all day long. So they just ran the house. And the
did
thing
whatever they
was,
want to do.
as long as whenever she got home, that house was clean and everything, and she didn't complain, that's it. They could do whatever else throughout the, you know, throughout the rest of the day. And me just seeing that, but seeing my mama struggle. So that's what I started doing. I started selling weed, man, and I was taking the money, sneaking it into my mom's room, putting it on her bathroom counter. You know, she knew what I was doing. She knew what was going on, but at the same note, like, what's she gonna do? We was losing the house. We was gonna lose this place, you know.
And y'all still
And
live in the same house.
I'm in the same house I grew up in, man. I kept it. We done redid a lot to it. I just built this game room here on it. Yeah, so it's you know, and I keep the same rules that my mama taught me growing up. I keep in my house. You know, a lot of times I hear it from my kids that, oh, that don't go no. It do in this house. It do
Yeah.
in this house. That's how I was raised. And I see the value in it now, like,
The structure. Yeah.
yeah, like for example, man, I go through it with my kids all the time about food in the room, man. Food in the room.
Yeah, it
Hey,
don't work.
I've been in a place with roaches, so I don't want that here. And I'm trying to tell them that they don't understand. They ain't had to live that life. So,
Yeah.
they don't understand that. It's the things we go through that shape, make, and mold us to, define who we are.
Yep. Because we don't eat nothing in the room. And my wife rarely eat in the room. We always eat in the common area out there in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's where we eat all our food at. The kids are not allowed to have them drinks and none of that stuff in their room.
Yeah, I keep my water, man. I always keep my water with me about wherever I go. But other than that, man, I just keep it to the kitchen area.
Yeah. Let's hit this question. What was the turning point that made you decide to change your life?
Man, let me see. Well, I went to prison multiple times. I can't say it was prison, but I can say it was a combination of multiple things. And I remember my first time going to adult prison. My first time I went to prison, it was JIT camp. That's where me and you met.
Yeah.
Nobody in there was doing more than 10 years, So mentally, that really ain't doing nothing for us to actually see the consequences of what we doing.
Yeah.
Because some of the people that was doing some of us kids that was doing 10 years, all right, the crimes we was doing 10 years for, adults in adult prison was doing life for. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it didn't teach us going to a JIT camp to see that long term like that. It wasn't until I
Agree.
went to adult camp and I'm chopping it up with the dude and we hanging out for months just like me and you did. And all of a sudden, man, release date come up, something about game time. I don't remember what it was. And something came up. I asked him when he get out. He said, dog, I don't get out. I got life. And that hit me. I'm like, damn. I'm
It's
like,
a different
damn.
ball game.
Yeah, because it was just like me and you chopping it up, and it just hit me in my head. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. He's not, man. That's crazy. And from that point on, I really couldn't relate to him no more. It's hard for me to talk about, it was hard because I had been talking about it, and I felt like, damn, man, I'm talking to him about going home to my family and everything, and he ain't never going home, man. My dog got life. He's gonna be here forever. So
Yeah.
that took a toll on me. Like, I don't want that. I don't want that. And then another thing, man, was being in prison, man, and seeing people lose their mama. That was, dog, get disconnected again.
You still Gordon.
Okay. Yeah, so another thing was it just, seeing them lose their mama while they was in there. And that was something that scared me, man. That scared me big time, man. And not that my mama was in bad health, man. I think my mama's probably going to outlive me, but that was something that really scared me. And then also, man, on the phone with my son and hearing my son grow up and I'm not there for him. I done been in and out of prison and, he's excited to see me come home. And it's like, I keep letting him down, and my mama asked me, she said, what are you going to do when you get out this time? And I told her, I said, Mama, I done lied to you too many times. I said, I ain't going to tell you what I'm doing, but just show you. And when I got out, man, I don't want to live that life no more. So I had to become somebody I never been. So I went down to local college and I put myself into college. And that was really just about the structure. It wasn't about the education because while I was in prison, I had already had it in my mind that I was changing my life.
Mm-hmm.
I told myself, I got put in the box in K-Dorm, man, at Butler. For 6 months, they put me under investigation and they housed me alone. They only gave me 2 showers in that 6 months. And that really did
Really
something
mess
to
you
me
up.
mentally. Yeah, I was talking to myself in the mirror and, but it was good for me. It really was. I ain't even mad at them about it because I think that was really the turning point in my life. That's when I put down all the hood books and picked up all the business books, because I used to read all the hood books in there. And then James Patterson's, like
Yeah, we read every
that's,
damn James Patterson
yeah,
book they
yeah.
had.
I know. So when I went through that and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, man, you must love it. You keep coming back. You keep coming back to prison. Like, you love it. You keep coming back. And I'm like, nah, it's just, when I get out, that's the only way I know how to make money. And I'm playing devil advocate with myself in the mirror. I'm like, okay, then educate yourself. Do something else. You got a couple more years here, man. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
And when they
Don't
put me in
waste
the
the time.
box, yeah, when they had put me in the box, I was under
Solitary
AC
confinement.
confinement. Nah, I was under AC confinement. So they gave me all of my canteen.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was under investigation because they found 91 packs of cigarettes in a trash can outside. And I was the only one with a pass to be able to go outside to that trash can.
Man.
But anyway, I don't know nothing about that. So when they brought me my 6 trash bags of canteen that I had, I don't know how they let me get all of that in there, but they did it as a joke because the rats are so bad in there. So now I have to fight rats. All right.
Yeah.
But I started catching the rats. I'm a survivor. I made a way to make it work. But like I said, that experience right there is what really helped change me to become more entrepreneur minded, more business minded. And I've always been an entrepreneur, but I've always ran legit businesses just to cover for my dope businesses before. I never really pushed legit businesses. I never really tried. They were just cover up. That's it. So I told myself, I'm like, educate yourself, learn something else. So I don't drink coffee, man. And I had them red bags of coffee, them Keefy red bags, and they had
Mm,
just took them off canteen. So these things was like gold. So I got on the door, man, and I told people, man, I got red bags of coffee and I got them, I'm only trading them for business books. I'm not selling them. I'm only trading for business books. And people started giving me all kinds of books, entrepreneur books, magazines. I started just learning, and I took notes, man, for the next 2 years. That's what I did. I ended up writing the warden, got a program going the class was called Made, and that's where the idea came from for the
a
nonprofit we
project
got.
made.
So yeah, Project Made. So Made standing for Manifesting Ambition, Developing Entrepreneurs. And what we did was we got a resource officer that got us information. I learned how to write business plans, financial plans, marketing strategies, SWOT analysis. I just started learning about business and educating myself. And that's what I did for the next 2 years. And that really had a big change on me because I noticed in that change there, the people that was coming up talking to me from being the alleged cigarette man, to by the end of my sentence, the only people that came and talked to me is if they wanted to learn about meditation or they wanted to learn about how to write a business plan or they had this idea that they wanted to implement and they needed the funding when they got out. Like that's what people came and talked to me about. That was a big difference.
It shifted.
And yeah, and I used to take in my classes, I'd have people write out a 5-year projection. Where do they see themselves 5 years from getting out? And the crazy part is, I forgot that I used to do this, right? And I had all of this paperwork that I came home from prison and I went through it the other day. I've been home for over 11 years and I just went through it the other day and I found that 5-year plan and I'm like, I didn't remember writing it.
Yeah.
And everything was on point with it. I went to college like I said I was going to do. I did everything I said I was going to do. I was like, man, that's crazy, man. And I had forgotten I'd written it, but for 5 years, I stuck to the plan. The
And
end
yeah,
result was not where I expected, but the end
but
result
it
was
was
still
getting
a
there.
success. Exactly. It's
Mm,
still a success. So, you stick to it. And I think that was really what was my turning point in life. It was just a buildup of all of that. And then, once I got put in that box and I was just going crazy, man. And like I said, they
yeah.
only gave me 2 showers. So I ended up getting scabies in there. They wouldn't give me the proper medical treatment. And I had scabies for like 2 months in this cell by myself. And,
That's
just I
tough,
couldn't
man.
sleep, I was sleep deprivation. I was going crazy. And like I said, I'm not mad at them, but it wasn't right. But that was the turning point I needed because, that was going to keep happening if I decided I wanted to
Keep
get
doing the
back
same
out and do
thing.
the same things. I'm gonna come back to the
Solitary,
same thing.
solitary confinement, it puts you in silence, especially when you're by yourself. And when you're in silence, you really don't have a whole lot of noise going through your mind. You able to hone in on what's important. When we was in prison together and being locked in those cells for all those months at a time, being able to just barely come out every 3 4 days just to take a shower. When I first, like I said, like when I first came to prison, still I had the mindset of I'm gonna do my time and come home. I didn't want to try to become a worse criminal inside of there. You know what I mean? Because everybody try to think I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna just go ahead and buy a kilo and do this and do that there. Try to and put yourself back in the same situation. If I would have got sent to a different part or stayed in that main population where I was, because I came in there with tobacco in there, and I had enough tobacco in there that I didn't have to buy nothing out of my canteen for like 6 months, first 6 months of my sentence. And there, it wasn't no tobacco allowed in that prison. So like I said, if I would have stayed in general population, I wouldn't have shifted my mindset at all. I would have became a worse person. I would have came right back out here in the street and went full fledged back into the same thing because it was already out here plentiful. Like I had some people that was really up, and all I had to say was here. Cause soon as I came home, he was like, here, like threw me a whole nine. Hey man, go get back at it. I threw that shit back. I say, nah, bro, I'm not doing it. But that came from that damn solitary confinement that they had us in. So me sitting in there, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep at all. I would sit there, and every time I closed my eyes, I would see everything that I was doing. It was like a movie. I see myself out doing this, doing that, and it was like my voice inside was like, "Man, you was poisoning a lot of people. You was hurting a lot of families. You feel me? And you was hurting your mama, your sister, your grandma, right? So it kept resurfacing to me. So like the shit used to have tears in my eyes. I'm like, damn, I was really, really messing up. And I'm talking about it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop, dog. I'm talking about as soon as I closed my eyes, it just flashed. And then I would try to stay awoke so I wouldn't see the flashes of the stuff, right? And I was like, man, when I come home, I'm not doing this shit no more. I'm not doing this shit no more. I'm gonna get my diploma. I'm gonna go to school for painting cars, cause that's about what I wanted to do. And so like I say, that silence tormented the shit out of me for that time in there, man. But it kind of it didn't fully pave the path that I'm on now, but it changed the way that I was thinking then a little bit to help me better the situation,
Yeah, when we
to
was in
not go back to
prison,
prison, not to go
when
right
we
back to
was in
prison.
prison, you did it right. You actually, you took that silence and you studied with it, you read with it. I remember you was in there, you always used to read your Bible, I remember when you was in there with lockdowns like that. Me, what was I doing? I was drawing on the walls in my dorm. I was over there tattooing. I was out in the hallways writing, drawing on the walls with doo-wop. I didn't really have to endure that most of the time. And that's why I say I didn't actually get to go through that moment of silence like you got during them lockdowns because all I had to do was knock on the door. Hey, I'm going to work. Warden Dados wants me. So I got to slide out of there. Once I hit that K dorm solitary confinement like that, I experienced that. And it taught me also about meditations as well. That was something that meditations, really came into play with my life. And meditations to me is, being able to control the thoughts in your mind, being able to control where they're going to.
Yep, and getting that noise out. So the key points to this: anytime you're going through certain things, it's just a bunch of noise in your mind, man.
It really
It's a bunch
is.
of noise in your mind, a bunch of distractions. It's trying to derail you on the person that you should be becoming. Sometimes it's best to sit in quiet peace. It's best to do it early in the morning. I still do it to this day. 10, 15 minutes, 5 minutes a day, and just try to hear total silence because that's when the answers that you're looking for really come to you. As in an idea, or you're going through certain things in your life that's really pulling you, like you're stressed out about this and stressed out about that. Sometimes it's best to just sit in silence, man, and it'll come to you.
That's me. I do that at nighttime after everybody's asleep. That's me. I'm
Mm,
up for 2, 3 hours because that's my best time of silence, man. Everybody's asleep. I ain't got nobody to bother me, and I'll
yeah,
work things out. Whether I'm, dealing with something with business, dealing with something with my mind, dealing with something with my spirit, whatever. I work it out then in the silence every night.
yeah, that's best. All right, let's hit this other one. How did becoming a father impact your motivation and mindset? Because you got an older son and you got your baby girl.
Yeah. So I think, and then I got stepkids. So
Yeah,
I think it was really I didn't learn really with my son because like I said, I was in and out of prison, the first couple years of his life like that. But it wasn't until I decided that I wanted to change and then I got out and I noticed that, everything I'm doing, he's wanting to do.
yeah,
And it's crazy because I used to wear a lot different clothes than I wear now. And my son, everybody tells my other kids tell me, they're like, the only reason you got good shoes and good clothes is because Damien buys them for you for your Christmas presents and birthday presents, which is true because that's what my son gets me for Christmas and birthdays and stuff. That's what he'll get me his shoes and keeps my shoe collection looking good. So
Well,
everybody's always like, oh man, good shoes. And my other kids will be like, yeah, his kids got him dressing good. From each other though, with styles though, because as I say, when I got out, I noticed that he wanted to do everything I was doing. And I was actually doing what he was doing because I got into college and my son was a straight A student, man. It was hard to stay up with him. And he don't even try. He don't even try, man. He don't I never see him do homework, but he makes straight
yeah.
A's every report card. So me being in college, I'm trying to be a role model to him. It's hard to be a role model if you're making less than A's when your son's making A's. You get me?
Hmm.
So it made me do harder in college, and that's why I did. I graduated Phi Theta Cap, Magnum Cum Laude. I don't even know what all that stuff means, but I got it all right, which was a good accomplishment because when he graduated high school, he had highest honors. He had all the tassels and everything because he seen dad do it. So it pushed me to do better because I know my son was looking at me, but that has to come with the right mindset because I didn't have that mindset before I went to prison. I didn't understand that. It wasn't until I got right with myself and understood who I was and
Person that the role model that you needed to be for your kids,
yes,
they follow
yeah.
in your
So
footsteps.
so being that father figure made me step my game up, and I did. I did 6 years of college, man, and I graduated with high honors every time. So it made me be better. And then my daughter was born, man, and daughters just change you. They really do. It's I catch myself being way more protective with my daughter than I was with my son. But as I say, I felt like I came into my son's life a little bit too late after getting out of prison for multiple times. And,
Yeah,
it was hard to be a protector for him because he was already growing up. And by that time it was already, I'm too grown, don't snuggle with me. They're not that little kid no more. My daughter, man, she gave me that experience from the beginning. And that was really the first time I did. So that really changed me on protecting my kids and protecting what they see and protecting the environment they're around. And that's kind of what led to the separation of me and my daughter's mother because of the life she was wanting to lead. And I got to
yeah,
protect my kids. And that's exactly what I did. So fatherhood's definitely changed my mind on, how I live my life because I got to lead by example. They have to follow me. So I need to make sure that I'm setting the best example for them.
it's true. 'Cause that's the same thing with me. I couldn't lead them on the right path, if I was still doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
So my biggest thing was, okay, growing up, I seen people actions. Somebody say, man, I'm finna go out here and do this here. And they go sit down and they never do it. I don't have no trust in that person. But for somebody to say, hey man, I'm finna start this, and they started, get it up and going, like some of my cousins with like the trucking businesses and stuff, they started and they went did it. So I was like, they really did it. So now they showing through their actions and not just through their words. So with me, I say I can't keep doing these same old things and telling these kids not to do it. All I can do is do my best at becoming the best version of myself to show them that anything is possible and that you can do it. Now, sometimes you can't get everybody to follow where you want to go. You can't do it. All you can do is instill the information in them and hope for the best for them, and hopefully that they go. You put your part in. And I just wanted
Ultimately,
to
it's
put,
up to them, though.
yeah, huh?
Ultimately, it's up to them to make that
Yes,
change,
it's
that
it's
life
their
choice.
decision. Yeah, it's
You
their
know, that's
decision.
that's the hardest thing for me to deal with in life is
What that?
being in a position to change somebody's life and them not be in the position to accept that change. You know how hard that is to deal with because you have all the elements to change somebody's life, to make them completely different than how they living, man, and give them opportunity. Except they're over here saying, oh, I can't, I got this going on right now, I got that going on. And truth be told, a lot of times, man, they ain't got nothing going on important that's going to put them anywhere in life.
Nope.
No,
They
that's one of the hardest
basically,
things.
yeah, because a lot of people get stuck in their own ways, and
They're afraid of change.
yeah, they're afraid of the change because they're stuck in their comfort zone.
Yep.
Just like saying when you get out of prison, right? You know what put you in prison. So you get back out, you go right back to the same path, back selling the same drugs. You know they got that reoffender act, they'll give you 5 years in prison if you catch the same charge that you just got out for, especially with cocaine and stuff like that. But we don't understand it because we didn't read the damn laws. It's a reoffender act. They give you 5 years in prison if you get out and get caught with drugs again. The same drugs within that year time.
Yeah.
So we don't think about that. A lot of just get read out. It is what it is. Go get 2 years probation, violate probation, and you make a little bit of money. You make your money whatever you're gonna make, but you go right back to jail. That's not correct in the pattern. That's putting you in the same situation. And it's easy. It's easy to get out and do the same thing. It's easy, but changing your mindset and changing the person that you is within, that's the hard part. That's the hard shit that you got to go through because it's transforming yourself within, and you're breaking the old beliefs that you was instilled in as a kid, or following the role models, right? The role models that you was growing up with, and you see them doing the same shit over and over and over again. So you was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna just do this."
Yeah, I'm just gonna
And you
do it a
get
little bit
comfortable
different
doing
so
it.
I don't get caught with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't.
trying to become a better criminal.
Yep.
It don't work like that, man. Because
It don't work
every
like
it
that.
nah, because you could think you're smarter. It's something smarter than you. Just like now,
Well,
back then, we didn't have all that AI stuff. We didn't have all these cameras on the lights and cameras all the
yeah.
way around. These satellites that's zooming down on everything. But now they track everything we do now, man.
Facial recognition. They know where you at
Yeah.
all times now.
Yeah. When I got out, check this out. When I got out of prison, right? I had got in trouble again. Cause I was moving. I still had to do a little something to make some money. So I was doing something stupid. So I'm not doing that though. I'm really not doing that with the cocaine, none of that, right? So I get a federal hold, right? For some shit I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what the hell, what I don't did. But the people that I'm around, the feds watching them, right? The feds watching them. And I'm like, damn. So I'm looking at I'm looking at pull up my records, and I'm like, how the hell I get a federal hold on my shit? I'm not selling no drugs, man. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not out here with these boys. I got away from them though. I stayed in the house. When you used to come out there to Spring Manor, I stayed in the house. I went to school and came home. That's all I did. But
Guilty
I'm
by
just,
association of who you was around,
yeah,
though. That's what they
yeah,
was.
by association, yeah. And I guess it's like a lot of times certain people that you think that's before you will try to put you in a position, right? Because when I came home, they wanted me to get put back in the position that I was in before I left. I could have got back in, caught the charge now. Now I'm the down guy. Everybody else go free. But I gotta go sit back in here and go back to prison. You
Yep.
feel what I'm saying? So I was like, man, ain't no way in here, because it was the shit it didn't feel right. So I'm like, nah, man, because you know what I mean. It don't work like that, dog. I don't give a damn about that money, because I'm not gonna go back in there and sit in there to try to be smart. But
It ain't worth it, man. That
oh, it
fast
ain't.
money ain't worth money. It ain't worth it.
No, it ain't.
I remember when you was writing rhymes and when we was in there together. I remember you had said something. One of your rhymes say, slow money lasts long, or fast money go fast, but slow money lasts long." I think it was fast money go fast, but slow money lasts long. I think it was something along them lines like that. And that line that you said in there always stuck with me, man. It stuck with me even to this day. And that's the truth, man, because, if we get it fast, we don't appreciate it. But if we have to hustle and put in work for it, we're going to appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, it's a different type of trying to hold on to it though, because
Yeah.
if it comes to you fast, you'll spend it fast because they really don't have no value. But if you're out slow grinding it out, and you're trying to build it from the ground up, so those dollars, those 5, 10, 20, $15 coming so slow, it kind of like it builds more value within you, because you know you're doing that shit the right way. And that's kind of how it is with my business. I started from the ground up, and it's moving. I could be doing more, but I'm building it out slowly but surely with my kids. And
And you got a lot of other things going on as well while
yeah,
you're doing that. You know, it's not
yeah,
just like that's not the only thing you got going. So you're time managing right is what you're doing. All
yeah,
right. Because if you could put 7 days a week, excuse me, you could put 7 days a week and double your business, but you're not going to take and build any of the other stuff, your podcast that you got going, your realty you got going. You wouldn't be able to have the time on that there. And understand those are and I understand people say don't stretch yourself thin, but the setup that you're doing, you know, is because you do have a big family. It's not going to be stretched thin here in a couple of years when all these kids are old enough to be running these businesses. One business would not be enough for
for
all them kids
everybody.
to run. Exactly. So I think you're doing right with your time management, how you doing. I understand you doing 3, 4 days a week with the mowing. That's beautiful for time management, man. Because I've watched you grow this business from nothing. I went with you to go get the equipment, man, and I've seen how you've
Yeah.
grown it from nothing since that day. And you know, to do it with your kids is amazing.
Yeah, it is. All right, we're getting into segment two, entrepreneurship and creative real estate. Number four, tell us about how you found Dog Walker Ranch and used creative financing to buy it.
Well, I was actually doing graffiti art, you know, murals on walls. You know, that's something that I told you, you know, when I was with you, I picked up in prison, man. I found out that people pay for that. You know, I
Yeah,
used to get in trouble doing it, but then I found out people pay you if you do it the right places. So I was doing murals on walls, and me and you actually had just started the real estate thing. We had got into doing the flipping homes, and
yeah,
I went to my mechanic's house one day, and I was getting something done on my car, and there was this dude there, and he was in some basketball shorts, you know, holy basketball shorts, paint all over him. You know, he didn't look like that guy for sure, you know. Anyway, so something came up about a commercial piece of property, and one of the ones we was looking at, and I tried to pitch it to him. Well,
yeah,
turns out this guy that didn't look like that guy was that guy, and he knew all about commercial property and sales of it, flipping it, and everything.
yeah,
So he caught me trying to bullshit him, needless to say, right off rip. You know, I was new to it. He was not. So anyway, it sparked a good friendship out of us, though. We became friends, and he was the one that actually owned the Dog Walker Ranch and, you know, the property and everything at that point. So he wanted me to come up there and do some mural work on his kennel. And he called me one day. He says, "What do you know about epoxy?" I said, "Man, I already tried to lie to you once and bullshit you. I'm not going to bullshit you. I don't know nothing about epoxy. However, it does intrigue me." He says, "I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to fly you out. I'm going to put you through the schooling. I'm going to buy you everything you need for an epoxy business. I just want you to do my basement for me, and I'll send you home with everything. And you got a whole epoxy business to add to your, you know, your business." I said, "Okay, sounds like a plan." So he did. He flew me out, put me through 3 days of YouTube, and then we went to work on his floors there in the basement. However, he had me do a design, man. I did not like. I didn't like at the time. I did not like it. All right, and it ended up being the same floors that we put into the kennels up here. But he knew I didn't like it, so he said, "I'll tell you what, man. I know you want to still practice. You got to work on designs and everything. When you get back to Florida, I'll let you take and work on the kennel. I'll put some money in your pocket. I'll buy all the materials. If you mess up, it's a learning curve. I understand. It's my money. You know, learn. Get my kennel done in the process." So we did. We ended up doing the whole kennel, remodeled it, did epoxy all the way through it. And with that time, I ended up getting a lot of other epoxy work in it. The epoxy took off. I was doing really good. And we did the kennel. Next thing you know, the kennel's being showed in all these magazines, and I'm getting all these calls, and everybody's, "Hey, we want you to come here, do our kennel. Come here, do our kennel." And for the next 2 years, man, I traveled the country just doing kennels, man. Doing the kennels like I did this kennel here. And there was a construction side to it and an epoxy side. So my company was Creative Minds. And, you know, I prided myself, I was an artist, not a contractor. So I'm just going to come in and do art through your facility facility and, make your facility make money is what we were doing. We were going to change your theme and make it to where people talked about your place. So we did that for about 2 years, but it was tough because I'm gone for 2 weeks. I'm home for 2 weeks, gone for 2 weeks, home for 2 weeks. So my wife's having to run everything here. And after about 2 years, I didn't want to do it no more. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Ocala. People there want epoxy, but truth be told, they didn't want to pay the price that it was here. So, my partner, he was like, hey man, listen, I really want to be done with Florida. I got the dog kennel down there. Why don't you come up with a way to buy it? Or you and your wife run the kennel. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I did a little bit of hard money lending at first. I used a hard money lender, which was my godfather. He's always looked out for me on that. And I didn't have the money to buy the whole thing out. So I couldn't really buy the whole thing. So I had to get creative. So the first part of the deal that I did was for about a year, I took and just bought in as a partner. I bought in as a partner just on the kennel. And for that year, we just blew the kennel up. We made the kennel way more money than it was making the prior year. Ever since we've gotten the kennel, we keep doubling revenue every year on it. So we've done amazing with that. And after that first year, by this time, the kennel was producing enough that I had a little bit of leeway to step out and say, hey, this is what I got going on. This is where I'm trying to go. So I did. I stepped back to investors and ended up doing another hard money loan with him himself, which was, that's a good topic that we can talk about at another time, because that was something where one of my mentors and me, we both learned about hard money lending at the same time, but from two different perspectives. He was actually the hard money lender. I was the one using the hard money lending. So it taught me a lot about that, which is something I use in my life to this day, is hard money lending, whether I'm doing it or I'm lending it, doesn't matter. So, I took and stepped out, tried to work something out, ended up coming up with a deal after two failed deals. That was a tough learning situation because I was on a time limit to do these buyouts of the company and the property, everything. Well, two deals went bad and it caused extensions. And because of them two deals, I ended up paying $100,000 more for the kennel than was originally talked about, because it went up $50,000 each time that the deal went bad, because I needed to buy extension of time. So when they say time is money, that's 100% in business. Time is money. All right. So I used a little bit of owner financing. I used a little bit of hard money lending. And then I also used, just a buy-in of a partnership to start it out with. And once I did that buy-in, I jumped that business up. I made that business boom to where, my lender's seen, okay, he can definitely make it happen. He's going to take and keep growing it. This is just after the first year. People felt more comfortable. The choices you make define who you are. Right? And I've always said that, man. The choices you make define who you are. And it was me choosing to, I think it was you that said it to me, I gave up epoxy to go do this here. And everybody knows I love doing epoxy. I love it, man. I love doing it. I love the designs. I love the art of it. Do I ever feel bad because I gave up epoxy to, go into land clearing and dog business and everything I do now? And not really, because while I love doing epoxy, I don't like doing it as a job, man. I don't like the demand of it. I like doing what I want to do on epoxy. But when people tell you, oh, I want this, oh, by the way, I need it done by tomorrow, that doesn't make it fun no more. It takes away the fun aspect. So epoxy was the avenue that got me to where I am today. So I don't miss it like that, because it was a stepping stone and it got me to where I was at.
Yeah.
But it was me. Yeah, it was me doing all that epoxy and traveling, because, the guy that owned Dog Walker, Richard, he was the one that was actually going and selling these jobs across the U.S. at these dog kennels for me, because he was a dog kennel consultant. So he would go in and get them, and he'd tell me, yeah, I got a crew that's going to come through and do it. So every time he said that, I came through, and, within 2 to 4 weeks, I was done with that job. I made sure that he was a man of his word with what his word was by being a man of my word. And with that showed him that I was good to come in as a partner when he was ready to step away from Florida. He wanted to be done in Florida, and he had this kennel down here that he really, didn't do much with it. It wasn't, he let
Wasn't
other
like,
people run it and start
so,
businesses there. And they gave it a bad name, which was something that we had to deal with when we came there because it had a bad name.
all right. So by you using creative financing to buy a dog walker ranch, you started out with wholesaling real estate, bumped into this guy, Richard, tried to make a deal on one of his properties, but he knew you was bullshitting him trying to get it under contract. Eventually, y'all became friends. Then you started the creative mind Mapoxy. Traveled all over everywhere with him doing dog parks, not dog parks, but
Dog kennels, yeah, pet
dog
resorts.
kennels. And you partner with him with the kennel and the epoxy business, and then eventually end up buying Dog Walker Ranch,
From him
right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you own it 100% now.
Yeah, I own 100% with the property now. Well, me and my wife do.
You pay like $1 million for that.
Little over, little over.
Yeah.
But people think that, but so just for a little, comparison, there's a property right next door. All right. It's only 2 acres and it's just got a home on it, a house on it. Nice house, granted,
Hmm.
very nice house, but it's still the same square footage as I have. It's not an income producing business on there. All right. I also have double turn lane entrances and I have 7 acres as opposed to his 2 acres. Well, his sold for just under a million
Yeah.
6 years ago, about 6 years
Yeah.
ago. All right. So for me to pay what I paid for mine, and it came with the business on it that was already producing money. Granted, I had built it up to where it was that day in the past year. All right. But it came with that business on it. And then, something else that people don't think about. So it also came with all that equipment that I do the land clearing with. It came with the mulchers and the excavators and the skid steers and dump trailers and trucks and all of that stuff to do that. However, it
Hmm.
was just a bunch of equipment at the time. I had to start that business up. So that was another part of the creative financing. That's how I came up with the cash, was using the equipment that was just sitting on that property there. So in turn, I just took what he had available, he had all this stuff available, but he's got properties in other states, he was all over the place. So I just took what he had sitting on this property and made it profitable and worked a deal to buy it from him that he learned about becoming a hard money lender, which was awesome for him because he made his money off his interest.
So you bought the property with the equipment and stuff on it, and you used the equipment to help you purchase the property.
You know,
That's a smart step there.
So the thing is when I had met Richard, I had just finished up a bad business deal down in Hollywood, Florida, man, and it put me in debt quite a bit. I had a business partner down there that turned out to be grimy, and he left me about $200,000 in debt on my credit. And that put my credit score way down, which was crazy because I was at an 800 something credit score and it dropped. He did all kinds of fraud on me. And I got a lot of it removed, but a lot of it they didn't want to remove because he paid a payment out of a business account that we shared. All right. He paid a payment on these, and I wasn't down there enough to know what was going on. So anyway, I ended up coming back up here in major debt. So going into this deal with Dog Walker, I did not have any credit. I really didn't have cash like that. I wasn't sitting on big cash at this time. And mind you, I was still a full-time student at this time. I was still in college doing full-time college while doing all this other stuff. So I really just that was a lot of the creativeness with it was because I had so many components going in my life at that time, and the college was still me trying to stick to that 5-year plan. Even though I never planned on working for anybody, it was a part of the structure of me changing my life. I didn't get into college because I needed a degree to go show somebody to get a job because entrepreneurship's always been my thing. I was just taking it serious now. But that college did change the structure of my life and it made me commit to what I was doing and see it through, which in turn is what I did with Richard when he took and went across the country and told people, oh yeah, I can make this happen. I got a crew that's going to do it. They're going to come here. They're going to be done by this day. And then I would come through and make it happen and be done by that day, you know? that was the same things I learned in college because, to be honest, an employer don't care about that degree. The only thing that degree shows them is that you are going to deal with the bullshit and see it through to the end. That's all a degree means to me when somebody tells me, "Oh, I got a degree." I don't care what your degree is in. I don't care
Did you
what it's in.
finish it?
You got a degree and you finished it, that means you will see it through to the end. I don't care what your degree's in. I could find a place for you because I know that you will see something through until the end. And that was a big part of me with this deal with Dog Walker, man, was everything with Richard, I've had to see through to the end with it. And once he seen that, he took that chance on me. He did. A lot of people did for me to be where I'm at today, man. A lot of people took a chance, but that took me being a man of my word and seeing it through to the end.
That's good. All right, let's jump to number 5. What advice would you give to someone who thinks they need money to get into real estate?
You don't need money. There's plenty of people out there with money that don't have the deal. And what I mean by that is your network, your networking is your net worth. Who you know determines your net worth. Because you know this just as well as I do. I know you got into it. We got into it together and we went, there's something that dude Sean taught me that stuck with me. All right.
Yeah.
I remember he told me, he said, man, I remember when I was putting my first yard sign and I hid my face going out there and I put it and I hurried up, ran back in my truck, got in my truck. I didn't want nobody to see me. He said, I was embarrassed about it, man. He said, but then I sold that house and I made $26,000 off my first deal. And he said, the next time I went out to put up a sign, I'm waving at all the cars and I'm pointing at the sign and I'm
Yeah,
stabbing them
that
in the
one deal.
ground. He says, now it was important for me to know for people to know who I am. And that's really important in business. And I really think it's in life, but I think in business, it's very important on who you know. And it may not be who you know. It might be who they know, but whether it's a janitor or a CEO, you're going to treat them the same. You're going to keep that contact because the people they know. So when somebody says, oh, I don't have the money to get into real estate, it's not about having the money. You just may not have the connects you need to get into real estate.
Or the right
So
structured
if
plan.
you hang around 5 people that flip houses or do real estate or something like that, I guarantee you're going to become a real estate agent, a broker, a house flipper. You're going to do something with it. You're going to have an Airbnb rented out. You're going to do something, a rental house, something with it, because that's how you see your friends making extra money. All right. Now, I may be looking for a deal, but I don't have the money. But I know my a buddy over here, I know he likes making money and I know he does deals. And this is really how I got into the house flipping, man. And I think I told you the story, but I'll repeat it for everybody listening. So my neighbor was losing their house next to me, and they got a real nice house next door, 2-story, biggest house on the block. And she was losing her house. She had been there as long as I've been here. And she came to me and she says, hey, I really need somebody just to take over the mortgage. I owe 115,000. I just need somebody to take over the mortgage and they can have the house. I just don't want the foreclosure on me. And me not knowing what I know now, then I told her I don't have the money and I let that house go. So somebody came in and picked that house up for 115,000. They put 50,000 into it and then they turned around and sold it for 350,000. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Well, another one of my mentors who does flip houses, builds houses, and he stepped to me one day. He's like, man, why didn't you let me know your neighbor was selling that house so cheap? And I was like, oh, I didn't have the money for it. He was like, yeah, but you could have sold me the contract. I would have gave you $50,000 just to put it under contract. And that's what got me into signing the contract. What does that mean? So that's what put me and you on that journey of assigning the contract, because Chuck, one of my mentors, told me I missed out on a $50,000 deal.
Yeah.
And the reason why was because of the money that was made off that house. That dude didn't have to sell that house for 350,000. He did it for a quick sale because the house is worth close to $1 million. He was just going for the quick sale and he let somebody else make money off it as well. But he still profited a good chunk out of that real quick.
$185,000.
That's what I mean. He still profited a good chunk out of that real quick. So you don't have to have money. You just have to know people, man. So start networking with the people. Yeah, you got to start networking with the people who are doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I'll
For
drop some
example,
gems.
yeah, so my hard money lenders, I got several hard money lenders. Granted, each one of them have different stipulations on how they lend money. So that's what you take into account on which ones you go with. And they may each have different interest rates, or the terms might be different. Some people's interest rate is not an interest rate at all. Some people's terms is they're going to be a partner or they may own something, until it's paid off. So that's why I say the creative finance. When I go into a negotiation with something, I always ask myself, what do I want out of this deal? And then I figure out what it is that they're really needing. What a lot of times what people say they're wanting out of a deal is not really what they want, it's just what they need. All right. So if you can find out their wants and their needs and you can fulfill that and it takes care of what you're wanting out the deal, you can usually come to a good deal.
Yeah. Because a
I
lot
mean,
of
that's
times they want to get rid of it. I give you a
yeah, a lot of times people's just trying to get out of a deal.
quick scenario, right? It was a house. I don't sold this house. I sold a house 3 times, just one house, right? So it was a house on Mark Wall by the park. My auntie and them used to live in there, but didn't nobody live in there since high school. So it's been abandoned them there 20 years. And so when we went through that program we had went through, I was like, damn, how can I find out who owned the house? So I pulled it up on a property appraiser, find out who it is, and it turns out to be that my cousin on my mom's dad's side owns the house. And I said, damn, man, the whole time I ain't know he owned the house. And the house is overgrown, floor falling through, but it's owned by about a half acre. And so I was like, I'm gonna just call him. And I call him like we don't know because it's money. It be money all around us, and we don't even know it. So I call him, and he say, I haven't paid the property taxes within, it's been about 5, 6 years because me and my sister have been going through it. And the house is in my name and I just want to get rid of it. So if you can pay the property taxes, you can have the house. I say, are you willing to sign a contract? He said, yeah. If you're going to pay the taxes, I'll pay it. You can get the house. I wrote the contract up. Then somebody to come there to notarize it, marketed it through marketplace and stuff like that. I sold a house, 4,200. I sold it for like 15,000. So that was my first deal that I made on that. So I paid because it took the property tax right out. The property tax was like 3,900. So it's like $10,000. And me and another guy we split the rest of that. But when I was sitting, I was sitting in my car and I was recording a video about wholesaling. Remember when I had that Roadmaster. I had a Roadmaster station wagon.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting in the car. I know it got the leather seats, big plush couch, the couch seats in there. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm out here wholesaling. And I got a notification and that money hit my account. Now, mind you, bro, I think I only had like $25 in my account, right? I was down bad, dog. I was down bad. Sitting in my car, just had some gas. I'm talking about I had my little bit of gas because I was running around, dog, trying to find some houses to make it, you know what I'm saying? Try to make a
Find
deal.
that
I had
deal.
$25 in my account. And buddy hit me. He say it dropped. This is a guy that I found that wholesale me. I still talk to him today. And he helped me close the deal. And that hit my account. And I'm like, you talking about somebody that was happy, dog? 'Cause I was like, damn. And I said, damn, this shit, it's real. Like this is really real. Like you can really make some money on it. And then I kind of everything I seen from then on to now, boy, I was getting addresses, trying to get the phone number, but it's certain things to the wholesaling that so when you watch somebody online trying to teach you something like this or that about it, they always leave out bits and pieces
Of course.
that they say, oh, you get the contract, you do this, you do this, you do that. But once you close that one deal, how do you find the next one? How do you find the person or how do you find the company? Because a lot of times it's a lot of times a lot of these houses that's sitting there for a very long time, they either going through something called eminent domain that the county is taking that house to build a road or something there. So they're sitting there and the person they gotta compensate the owner. And a lot of times they try to give them pennies on the dollar. So if you try to get one of them on the contract, that person probably will sell you that house, but they know that within the next 2, 3 years that the government is coming to take it and you're gonna have to get rid of it. So they don't disclose a lot of information to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to find a phone number for someone, especially if it's a business. So a lot of people learn how to cover their assets. So this house is owned by this company, and then you find this company, you find the company, but that company is owned by another company. And then you go find that company, then that company is owned by another company. So they make it a pain to try to find out who is the person behind that entity, right? Because they concealing their identity. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of steps to go through by trying to find the right person that owns some properties, but it's easy to find them if it's a
You know
person
what's
named.
crazy? It's harder to find somebody that wants to sell their property than it is with somebody with money that wants to buy a property. I can find investors easier than I can find people that want to sell their property. And that's something that one of my mentors told me since I was young. He said, buy property, man. Nobody's making any more of it. All right, buy property. And then I learned about commercial property, and that's a whole different ball game. We'll talk on
Yeah.
that another one.
Let's jump on. Number 6. What's one of the most important lessons you learned as a business owner?
It's hard to bring it down just to one. It's a collection of a lot of things, but
One key factor that you
if
think
I
is
had to look back at all my businesses, it's just to stick with it. Focus and stick with it, because a lot of people, man, they get that. So I read this book called Behance once. I don't remember much about the Behance, about the book, but what I do remember out of it is that, when somebody comes up with an idea, they got an idea for this business or this something they're going to do, this venture, all right, and they hype it up and they do the legwork and they get, the legwork and the hype levels going up and the excitement of this business is going up, and then all of a sudden they reach this point and then they just leave it alone. It falls off,
in
and
that
then that's
plateau.
the peak. That's called the Behance level. Okay, so it just falls off there. If you were to stick with it, you'd keep going up. But a lot of people, they lose. They don't get it. That the first little marketing strategy that they try doesn't work, so they give up. And I'm gonna tell you, man, it's a lot of marketing strategies I use. Some of them I've seen work. I still try new ones to this day. We're looking at billboards right now. I've never done a billboard, haven't really tried one. We're gonna try one though. See how that works. So you gotta just try different things. And I know it's tough, but like somebody told me once, in 5 years, you could either be starting it all over, or you could still be making this one work and making it grow and be way beyond where you're at.
Yep. Learning from
You
the
know,
process too.
so as you go through, yeah, that's another thing. Learn from your failures. Don't be afraid to fail, because I guess that could go exactly with what I was just saying. There's been marketing campaigns that I've thrown out to put three, four, $500. Actually, let me take a good example, real good example, and I hope people listen to this. All right, it's a magazine called Lux Living, or Lux Magazine, Luxe. It's complete scam. We paid these people $3,000 to be on the front and back cover, and then when you open up the first page, we were there as well. So we paid them $3,000 to get this whole thing. They sent us the magazine, looked amazing. Everything was great with it. About 2, 3 months later, we started getting calls from all these other companies who were in the magazine asking if they had seen where we had, anywhere, these magazines anywhere. And they gave me a list of all these places where these magazines were supposed to be going. And I happen to know people in these. So I got family in these communities. So I called them and I asked them, they're like, we've never heard of that magazine. So we determined that the only people that get the magazines is the people who advertise for the magazine. All right, completely bogus. We spent $3,000 on it. I failed. I failed big. I did not do my research into this company enough before I invested into this magazine. But that's what I mean. Just because I failed, some people, that's where that Behance level would have started going down. Oh, I failed. It doesn't work. You can't. You got to stick with it no matter what, because that didn't work. So, it was a little bit later, just recently, actually, we ended up doing a completely free event. And that was one of the biggest advertisements and marketing campaigns we could have done. And we didn't, well, we did, we advertised the event, but we weren't advertising us. It wasn't direct marketing, it was indirect marketing. We were advertising an event that we were doing, and that did big things for us. So, as you're going through business, don't be afraid to fail. You got to try new things and just stick with it, man. Stick with it. If something
Fail
ain't
fast.
working, yeah, fail forward. If something's not working, try it a different way. And I know that's bad because I used to do the same thing when I get out of prison. I tried the same thing, just a different way. I was just doing the wrong things, trying them a different way. All right. You got to stick with something positive. That comes from educating yourself and understanding, okay, this life's going to lead me back to here. This life has the potential to go here. And I like the potential more than I like the definitive over there, so that's what I went with.
So, failing your biggest take from becoming a business owner.
I
What are
failed
your
many a
lessons?
times.
Yeah, that just means fail forward because the majority of people that's in business that start up a new business, they don't stay in business no more than 2 years. A lot of times they quit within the first year. To stay in business 5 years, that means you don't figure something out because it takes a lot of persistency, a lot of focus, determination to stay in business for 5 years.
Yep.
My business, we've been in business 2 years. Next week, my birthday, July 2nd, next week, it'll be 2 years in business. You've been in business with them, what, about 7, 8 years now, Em?
5 years with dog walkers. So we bought into it 5 years ago. We took control and did a full ownership 4 years ago. And then same thing with the land clearing as well.
Fail forward. A lot of people
Fail forward.
don't believe things are possible because we hit so many roadblocks. You just
If it was
gotta.
easy, everybody would do it, and then it wouldn't be worth nothing. And that's just like a degree. My dad used to tell me that. He'd say if it was easy, everybody would do it, and then a degree wouldn't be worth anything because everybody would have one. And that
Mhm.
stuck with me because, it's the same way in business. It's the same way of life, man. If it's easy, it's probably not worth it.
Well, let's get to this one. It's saying, can you break down how creative financing worked in your deal? But we kind of already broke that down.
Then, yeah, I would just say with the finance and creative financing, there's no set pattern, man. It's really just taking the elements of what you have, what's involved in the deal, and finding something that works with it. So when I got out of prison, my parents helped me out. They went a place to stay to start out, for the first month or so. I had a good place to stay with them. And then, I ended up moving here to my childhood home that I grew up in because it's one of the rental properties. So I ended up moving here and taking over this. But I offer, like with my program, how I help people out with Project Made and people to come stay with me. I give them that same opportunity I had when I came out. So I get it. I tell them the same thing with the creative funding. For example, the Peanut Shack you were talking about, that Peanut Shack was something that we just started with really no money. I think I invested a total of $500 into that for his cooker and some other things, seasonings and some peanuts. And everything else was, old fencing we had up there. That's how we built that whole shack. And everybody's like, you built that out of scrap wood? And they're like, that's really nice for scrap wood. It really was, man. It was just elements of stuff that we had around there to make it happen. But that's the goal with my program, is to partner with somebody within 2 years, be a partner of a business with them. And they're running that business, the same way that I was done. So when dealing with creative financing, it's not always, money is not always what's needed. You get what I'm saying? I've started up when I was a tattoo artist, man, I started up a tattoo business and I never had any money. I just made a deal with somebody. Hey, man, you get me what I need and I'm going to do your tattoos for you. And that's what I did. So there's ways to do it without money because there's people out there that want what you're trying to do and they have the money. I've done it with equipment that we've needed. So somebody needed some mulching. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I need this mulcher over here. You need this done. I need you to buy this mulcher right here. You'll keep possession of it until we're done. And when it's done, you'll pay me the rest of my money and I walk away with my mulcher. I didn't have no money, but I got the mulcher done and I found somebody who needed mulching done and I gave it to him at a much more discounted price. Yeah, did I take a loss on that first one? No. People will say, yeah, you did. You did it for less. No, I didn't. Look what I got out the deal. I didn't take no loss, because if I had to come out of cash pocket with that there, it probably would have never happened because I'm not somebody to go spend money on stuff. My money goes into investment. Like I tell people all the time, man, this middle schooler told me one time, he said, only broke people carry cash. And that stuck with me, man. He's right. Only broke people carry cash. I don't carry cash, but I am broke, like I don't have cash to deal with. My value is not in cash, it's in assets. All right. If I get cash, I look for a place to invest it. Stocks, crypto, property, real estate, and businesses, people. I invest it into things that are going to pay me back because cash really has no value to me because my businesses take care of my lifestyle.
And it's good to have your money working while you're sleeping.
Exactly. Exactly.
These last couple of years, I've been